Hi guys, welcome back to the Keep the Ball Rolling podcast. It's our first one of the season we're doing live. I'm here with Ash and Adam. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
All good, thanks. You?
Not too bad. I think I'm sitting here in a lot of pain actually. I don't want to bore everyone with my story, but I've just been for some physio and she massaged my leg. And fuck me, it hurt like crazy. But hopefully she's fixed a bit of damage. It does feel like she's sort of got rid of some knots and stuff in my calf, but it feels battered and bruised. So anyway, that's my little moan and whinge over with. How have your week going so far?
Not too bad.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, plenty of football to get stuck into this time of year.
Happy days.
We'll review the cup victories secondly, but we'll go back to the weekend and we'll probably start with Arsenal v Spurs. Ad, what did you think of that one, mate? It was shit result, really.
Yeah, I think we really should have got the point, shouldn't we? Obviously, having the home advantage. But I think first half was great. I think second half was a little bit ropey. In all honesty, I think we were probably lucky that they didn't make the most of some of the chances that they had. But I think losing Rice and Vieira was quite evident, like what a big loss that both of them were actually in the second half. But I think Jesus should have scored, made it 2-0. We're probably being a bit harsh on him, but we know he's got the quality. But as much as I hate to say it, respect to Spurs, because obviously they come to us and they actually give us a real good go, and out of it they've took a point, which is a big point for them. So yeah, disappointing, but it is what it is.
I think their fans are still celebrating, to be fair, from what I keep seeing on social media. But let's not go there. Let's not upset them. I think you're right, mate. I think if Jesus had made it 2-0, becomes very, very comfortable for Arsenal on the day, and he should have scored. There's no excuses for him. Well, a good mate of mine, Sports Spurs, actually, he texted me before the kickoff saying, "Oh, you're in trouble, blah blah blah," because of their lineup, and I kind of agreed with him. As soon as I see Nketiah playing, he's not the man for me. And he was terrible. And I don't understand when you've already got to make changes to your team. Trossard coming out last minute, Martinelli not being available. Clearly, Rice wasn't fit from the start because he didn't play very well first half, I didn't think. Why'd you then make further changes to what would be your strongest team and take Jesus out of the centre forward position? Why didn't he swap them and play Nketiah on the left and Jesus through the middle? We would have been so much better with the ball. Yeah, I think just Arteta got it wrong at the weekend and it cost us. I know we played reasonably well first half, but they had their moments. Raya made a mega save from Johnson.
Yeah.
And there were a few nearly moments for them, and it wasn't overly convincing at the weekend. And again, after being so positive on the Champions League game against PSV, it was another performance that left us wanting, really, and more questions than answers, if I'm being perfectly honest. Ash, did you watch the game or?
Yeah, I watched a bit of the first half. I thought it was a decent game, especially like as a neutral. I thought it was quite a good game. I had a feeling with Maddison and Son, they seemed to do their business as usual, didn't they? But I think I predicted the 2-2 draw as well.
You did, yeah. We'll get on to the predictions, but you did. You got that one right.
Yeah, but like you say, I think Jesus would have been stronger down the middle, especially for Tottenham. I think it'd have been a much difficult opponent for the defence to face as opposed to him being on the left. But at least it wasn't. At least we didn't lose at the end of the day. I mean, I know it's still 2 points drop, but it's still unbeaten. And it's anything's better than a loss, isn't it?
Yeah, no one wants to lose the derby, and I completely agree with that. And as an Arsenal fan, and I guess Spurs fans feel the same. I actually watched it with my mate. He was a Spurs fan, and we both agreed neither of us enjoy the games unless you're cruising, which is uncommon for both sides in the game. And the build up to it. You're just on edge. You're just waiting for it to be over with. If that makes sense. You can't just sit there and relax and enjoy a game of football. It means so much. You don't want to lose to the opposition. You don't want to give them their bragging rights and things like that. So it's a horrible game, and I'm just glad it's out of the way without a defeat as well. We could have easily lost it on the day. So yeah, like you say, we didn't lose. We got out of there with a point, but it should have been 3, in my opinion. What did you make of the lineup, Ed?
For which
Sorry, say again, bud.
for which game?
Against Tottenham.
I think it was all right. But I think obviously with Raya in goal, personally, and I think I said it in the last pod, I'd have probably gone with Ramsdale, just because obviously he'd already experienced the derby, he'd already been through, he kind of has experienced that, and he plays well in those big games. So I did expect him to come back in, but then at the same time, obviously Raya, he didn't really have much to do in the 2 games that he'd played, and I thought the save that he made was brilliant. I think he played well as well. Like some of the balls out were cleaner than Ramsdale. Obviously, watching Ramsdale the other day, yesterday, you can see like a difference in quality there. But I think it was an all right lineup. I think the issue was obviously half time, wasn't it? When we lost players, and obviously that's disrupts what the game plan. But I think Jesus was the right choice, to play. But it's a bit odd having him and Eddie playing together. I think I know it gives us more going forward, but I just feel like Gabby's got more to give going through through the middle, and I think he's obviously playing there because of Martinelli and Trossard both being injured. So, but yeah, I don't think it'd be a regular lineup, to be honest. I think it's just might do with what we've got at the moment.
What are you thinking if you're Reece Nelson and you don't start that game with 2 wingers out?
I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we seen him come in against Bournemouth and he scored that winner. He played really well and then got injured. But I don't see him in the starting lineup. I see him as a bench player coming in and making an impact. And I think maybe in the short term he's happy with that. But I also feel with Reece is that I feel like he's got the quality, but he's just not going to start over Saka, and he's not going to start over Martinelli or even Trossard. So I think in the short term, maybe he's satisfied with that. But in the longer term, maybe he'll be like looking for another club, maybe a loan or something, or a permanent move. But I don't see him breaking in. And that's not criticising him, because I think he's got great quality, but I just don't see him getting ahead of any of them.
So what about Smith Rowe then? Could he have not started on the left? Because I feel that's where he's played his best football for Arsenal.
Yeah, it's the same situation, isn't it? Is that he's got the quality, but if you look at what's ahead of him in terms of what Arteta plays, not in terms of my personal views, but again, are they not playing him as much because they don't want to risk him getting an injury, or is it that he's not, or is it that Arteta doesn't think that he's got the quality just yet to be there? But I mean, he got his minutes, didn't he? Against PSV, and he obviously got minutes again yesterday. But I don't know what Arteta's thinking with it, but I think that they are 2 players that have got quality. Maybe Smith Rowe more because we've seen more of him and he has like a bigger impact. But both of them, just don't seem to be able to break through, do they?
So, what do you think Arteta sees in Nketiah? Because the reason I ask this is because he gets praised for his ruthlessness, Arteta, and his bold decisions and things like that. And I'm continually underwhelmed with Nketiah's performances. Every now and then he'll have a good game. I thought he played well last night, to be fair to him, but he's not good enough to challenge for the Premier League. Absolutely nowhere near the standard needed to challenge for the Premier League. And we hear about Arteta being ruthless, and he's, in all fairness, he replaced a very, very good goalkeeper in Ramsdale with one that's slightly better. There's not a massive gap between them in terms of quality. And he made a bold, ruthless decision with that. Why does he persist with Nketiah? Why have we not brought a forward when it's clearly a priority? I don't get it. I don't understand. And I'd love him to explain it and no one's got the bollocks to ask him in a press conference probably, but I'd love him to explain what it is that gets him in the team so regularly.
I don't know. I mean, you know, he has his moments, like you say, he has his moments, and you know, he does get goals, but he's not. If you look at all the other teams, I mean, look, just take Man City as an example. I know that Arteta has said like recently that there's goals all across the team. It's not just about, you know, the strikers or the forwards, but the difference is that City have got goals all across their team, but then you need that out and out goal scorer in the games that are really difficult. You know, when we come up against Liverpool, where you're only going to get 1 or 2 chances and you need to make them count, and we get 10 plus chances a game and we can't make it count with what we've got. So I do think we need an out and out striker. We do need, you know, a 20, 30 goal a season striker. But the only thing I can think is there one out there available? Is that why we're just making do with what we've got? Is it gradually building? Obviously, we've got Rice, and that's a big addition to the midfield. Is he waiting until January? Is he waiting until, you know, the summer to go out and get that kind of, you know, prolific goal scorer, and then maybe move Eddie on? I don't know. That's the only thing I can think, because he's obviously not scared to improve. He's not scared to get another player in if they're available, like with Raya. He's got a perfectly good goalkeeper in Ramsdale. And he's brought Raya in again, who's, you know, to top level, top quality. And it is just that you know, that number 9. Are we actually going to go out and get a proper goal scorer? But that's the only thing I can think, is that we're just making do with him, and maybe that's his logic behind it. But my opinion would be that Gabby should be playing in that position when he's fit, and Eddie plays, you know, back up as he has done.
I agree with that. Do you think? Well, there's 2 strikers' names in the hat for January that will be available, in Osimhen or Tony.
Yeah.
Is it realistic that we could get one of them? Tony being the more gettable one, I would suggest.
Yeah, I think Tony. I'd be happy if we went for Tony. I think, you know, he's Premier League proven. Also, I think obviously he's been out for a while. It's going to take a while to get back to, you know, back to fitness. We should be good of having, you know, obviously other forwards like Eddie, Gabby, as, you know, while he's getting his fitness. But I'd welcome him. I think Tony's a brilliant player. I think I just find him, you know, he's quite clinical, really. Yeah, I'd welcome him, like in January.
I think it's a must, but I do worry about our depth in defence as well, and maybe that might take priority in January unless they have the money to do both. Maybe a loan in defence. If Timber can be available for February, March, so he may struggle on, but yeah, if Tony's available and it's a reasonable fee, which I think it will be. He's not got a long contract left, and Brentford seem to be quite fair with their players moving on. They don't seem to stand in anyone's way or bettering themselves. I quite like that about the club. So, yeah, I think the fee mentioned has been around 60 million, which is very, very, very respectable considering the level of striker he is and the fees that you see banded around for other players. So if we can do it, we have to, but we won't be the only ones in the mix for him. So we'd have to act quickly and do the groundwork. A bit like what we did with Bryce, months in advance, you're sort of planting the seed. But he's already done. If I haven't seen the interview, but I've heard that he's kind of revealed an affection for Arsenal. But he grew up as an Arsenal fan, things like that. So it puts us in a good position. I really worry that Arteta's got this blind faith in Nketiah and we'll miss out on targets because of that. But I'd like to be proven wrong.
No, I'd hope we'd go in January or even the summer and get that, player that we need. Maybe we could just swap deal with Brentford, send Eddie on loan and get Tony in. We're thinking.
See, another thing I never considered with the transfers. We'll move on to Man United in a second, Ash. But the reason in the summer Nketiah, Balogun, and that weren't used as make weights and deals because they're homegrown, and you lose out on that 100% pure profit for FFP. So I can't see Nketiah being part of any swap deal.
Yeah.
Maybe a gentleman's agreement between the two clubs in the fact that, well, we pay you such and such for Tony, but we want such and such in a return transaction for Nketiah. But he won't be used as a swap, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'd be interested in a loan because they'd be in the position where they need to replace him again, wouldn't they, in 6 months? But it's one to keep an eye on. Anyway, it's one to keep a watchful eye on. Ash, decent win Saturday evening at Turf Moor. Is that what Burnley is? Turf Moor.
Yeah.
I looked at your lineup. I'm sure Adam agree and yourself and anyone listening, and it just didn't scream Man United, did it? I know there's a lot of injuries and everything at the club, but I watched the majority of the game. I thought the goal itself was absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure a welcome 3 points.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the game it was a tough game. I thought they did better than they actually did. I mean, the goal, like you said, the goal was unreal, but there was just dominated with possession and stuff. Burnley gave a really, really tough game. It was, I was glad when the final whistle went, to be honest. I just thought, they hit the post early on and stuff, and I just thought, oh dear, you don't want to be losing the game against Burnley. In all due respect to Burnley, not, I know every game's a tough game, but United should be beating Burnley quite easily. But no, it was a bit worrying with the lineup and stuff. I know a few more players are coming back now, which is obviously a positive thing. But I still wasn't really massively impressed with Bruno and Rashford overall of the game. I think they had good parts and little spells and stuff, but I think overall they could still perform better, and they're still capable of performing much better.
Yeah, I think Rashford's come in for a fair bit of stick, and to be fair, my majority of it's been from your own fan base, not from others looking in. But if Fernandez, does he get any grace because he's just playing out of position? He's not a
I think that's a big thing, isn't it? Oh no, definitely not. He's playing out of position. I think he's playing out of position, playing alongside Casemiro as well. I think he's much better as the number 10 role. I find him much more productive there with him pinging balls and his through balls and stuff like that. He's so much more of a threat playing there. But he's had to play here, there, and everywhere, hasn't he? At the end of the day, like many other players. But it was a good 3 points. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned your players coming back. Him, Amrabat, and Casemiro will be a strong midfield moving forward if you can keep that fit. And then obviously you've got
massively.
Mount, Ericsson to rotate, and depending on the opposition, you probably only need to play one of Casemiro and Amrabat and play maybe an extra attacking player if you're in your home games, things like that. So you've got options. You just need your players fit, don't you?
I've been impressed with Hannibal as well. I mean, the work rate of him is just unreal.
Yes, I thought he was good.
Somebody.
Yeah, I never heard of him, but I thought he was. I
No,
thought he was.
it's it's a youngster, but I was a bit worried about him getting sent off. He had quite a few challenges after his yellow card, but nothing, obviously too bad. Which I suppose will just come with time and experience and more game time. But he seems to be playing well. But it's positive that Amrabat, I thought he played really well in the cup against Palace, playing left back. But I think once he's fully fit, I think him alongside Casemiro will be, a big part moving forward, especially if both of them can stay fit for the full season.
It's a massive step up in quality from McTominay, isn't it, and Fred?
Yeah.
To be fair,
massively.
Not a difficult step up to make. I must stress, but a step up that you needed to do. And it looked at one point in the summer that you wasn't going to get Amrabat through the door, and to be left with McTominay for the season. Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty confident that I was always going to get him, because he was quite open about it at the very beginning, wasn't he, Amrabat? But they was just seeming to stall. I don't know whether they was seeing if anybody else would come available, or if they was still after De Jong, or I don't know if Ten Hag was kind of playing the long game to see if anything changed, and then always knew he'd kind of have Amrabat as a kind of backup plan kind of thing. But I mean, to me, I think he's a good player, as a international player who's playing really well for Fiorentina. It's just getting him fit, isn't it, and getting used to playing with the players. But I think he's definitely a good addition to the squad. Like you say, he's a massive improvement to Fred and McTominay. And Eriksen, really, because Eriksen, as good as Eriksen is, he can't play week in, week out, playing Tuesday, Saturday, and stuff like that. So I think once he's fully fit, it'll only bring positivity to the team.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, like I say, it gives you strength going forward, doesn't it? Whenever there's a good day for United, there always seems to be some sort of controversy and adversity that follows it. And the Sancho situation just keeps popping up every day. And now you've got your players publicly appealing to him to apologise to the manager, which he doesn't look like he's going to do, does it?
No, he ain't going to do it, is he? I can't see that, to be honest.
Where do United go from there then? Do they still have to pay his wages? Do they? I don't know the ins and outs of it, to be honest, but I don't know if it's a disciplinary issue and they have to pay his wages. Has he officially been suspended? I was listening to some stuff yesterday about player welfare, and allegedly you're supposed to allow him to train with all the same equipment and follow the same training
so I don't know
schedules.
Who's kind of breached what sort of terms and conditions? Has Ten Hag kind of breached something? So if he's done something that he's done something that he shouldn't have done, then surely Sancho is obviously in the right, and it will go for him, wouldn't it? But like you say, there's so much ins and outs and stuff like that. You just never know, and you hear so many different things and different stories and stuff like that. You just never really know what's going on inside the football ground, do you? Really?
No, you don't. Although I do think Man United do their best to air everything publicly. There always seems to be a leak, or it's far more than any other club. Far more than any other club.
Yeah.
Anyway, obviously it's not the club doing it. There's someone inside that's being a bit naughty. But you seem to have your dirty laundry aired in public a bit more than anyone else does. What about Anthony? Because that's gone quiet. I haven't heard anything on that for 10 days or so.
It's all gone quiet, to be honest. But it's a funny one, isn't it? Really, because depending on obviously the outcome of the police investigation and stuff like that, obviously then United will probably do their own internal one. But as soon as I'd imagine, as soon as he's been deemed the all clear, if that is to be, as soon as he physically can, Ten Hag will put him straight back in the team, because as we mentioned previously, he seems to be his first number and name on the clean sheet week in, week out. He can't seem to do any wrong. But yeah, it has gone quiet on that side of things, to be honest.
I suppose it's not a bad thing either, is it? It's no news. Could be good news of it. Could be getting resolved internally or away from the football club.
I think it's good for the team. I think it's good for the team because, with it all just raving about Sancho and Anthony and stuff, it's just got to be, a lot of stress for the team and the manager and the staff and stuff. It's, being in front line of the papers every day and story of this and that. It's, let them just play their game and just, carry on with things, whatever's happening in the background, then that can just carry on. But it obviously has a knock-on effect on the first team and stuff, doesn't it, with all this shit going on in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. But it gives a window of opportunity. There's, I believe, Palestri's played a couple of times and played quite well, and Garnacho was good in the week, I've heard. So might clear a path for the youngsters to actually get some minutes under their belt and get into the side as well. So, and we'll move on to the midweek football. We'll start with you. I obviously didn't see any of your game, but rumour is you played quite well against Palace. Convincing win, probably needed for the confidence, and a couple of wins on the bounce, 2 clean sheets on the bounce. Turned a corner, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, they played well. I mean, they made a few changes and stuff, but, Palace made quite a few changes as well. But 3-0, it was really, really comfortable win. We got Palace again the weekend. I'd imagine after they'll go much stronger, but I think they got that Edouard who's out, I think, which is a big loss for them. But I think going through to the next round and stuff with a comfortable win, like you say, a clean sheet, well, back-to-back clean sheets, it's only going to bring, positivity for the players and the fans. It's getting minutes in Mount and Amrabat, which is, always good.
So, did you make many changes for the tie then? I assume it's something you're going to take quite seriously.
Yeah, I'd imagine Neil will. They want to defend the title, won't they? I'd imagine the cup, should I say, not the title. But yeah, they did make a few changes. To be fair, there was only Onana, Dalot, Casemiro, Pellistri, and Hannibal that played. He brought Martial in. He didn't start Højlund. He brought him on afterwards. But like you say, I think Garnacho got minutes as well, whereas I thought he should have got minutes against Burnley, really. But he started with Pellistri, which, I mean, he played well. But I really like Garnacho. I think he's got that bite about him. He's unpredictable, and he's really clinical in front of goal, which you guys saw against Arsenal when it was offside. I mean, he had one chance and he took it. He took it well, and I think that's what he brings to the game. He's so clinical, and I think he needs to be given the opportunity more, as opposed to with now Sancho and Anthony not playing. I think he should be playing on the other side, on the right side really, and then just play Bruno where he's more productive in the central.
Yeah, I agree with that. You only get better with games, don't you? So he just needs more minutes. But like as you say, the potential and quality is there for him, and he is clinical. He does seem to strike the ball well and always hit the target at least. The future's good for him. To be fair, you've got yourself a little diamond there. His attitude could be better, I think, at times. But I'm just from the outside looking in. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but he just looks like he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, I suppose he has, but I think that's because I don't know if that helps him, produce and perform as good. With having that kind of ego and stuff, you can kind of let it slide a little bit, really, because he can kind of back it up. Whereas, you see with Anthony, his ego is a bit, probably a bit too much, and then he'll try and act like doing all step overs and stuff, and then do a stupid ball, and he just makes himself look like a tit. Whereas Garnacho, he's more consistent. I know he doesn't play as much and stuff like that, but to me, I mean, he's definitely a player for the future. And I mean, if he carries on performing the way he is, the future's bright for him. To be fair,
yeah, definitely. Ad, did you manage to catch the Arsenal game yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
What did you make of it?
First half was good. Second half was quite concerning. I know it's a weaker team and stuff, but Ramsdale made a really good save. I'm not sure if you guys managed to see it, but he managed to get like fingertip, put it on the post, and then he was being his usual shithouse self. And while the ball was still in play, he faced towards the Brentford fans and kind of give them a bit back. They were giving him quite a bit of stick all game. But I think Brentford were quite unlucky not to score, because it was just like wave after wave of attack against us. I think it was very, very fine margins actually. But yeah, first half was a good watch. Second one was quite, like I say, quite concerning. But the main thing is you get the job done, and obviously we move on to West Ham next.
Yeah, I watched it myself. I thought first half was complete control. I was quite surprised actually, because Brentford were more or less full strength. But yeah, I thought we played well. It's good to see. It was interesting to see Tommy Asu play centre half and Ben White play right back. But I thought Tommy Asu was superb on the night. And I know he plays there for Japan as well. So it's certainly something we should be looking at more moving forward as a rotation option for Saliba, perhaps. He's quite clearly very capable in that position. Nice to see the youngster get a chance. What is his name? Segu, or I can't pronounce it. But I thought we showed a few nice touches in the first half. But he definitely faded away, and Ben White, it was clear as day, he was very reluctant just to give him the ball every time. It was only sort of safe passes to him, if that makes sense, which I can kind of understand. You don't want to feed him to the lions in what would be his first start for the club. The Ramsdale thing, not impressed. I don't care if he's receiving stick or not from the away fans or the opposition fans. You get that every game of your life, you'll get stick from the opposition fans. The ball's still in his box and he's turning to face them to give them stick. It's just not on. It's different if we've just won the game and the full-time whistle's gone, or we've gone up the other end and scored. I can kind of get it, and it's in his character. But when the ball's in your box, fucking switch on and pay attention. I don't want to see it. I know I sound like a party pooper, but I do not want to see it. And I believe some of these characteristics are the reason he's lost his place. Because it's not down to his goalkeeping. He made a great save. It's not just down to his goalkeeping. It's the clowning around. I don't get what he was doing. Why? When the ball is still in your box, are you turning to face behind the goal to stick your tongue out at the Brentford fans? Because you've done your job. You've saved the ball. Why? What is he doing? And I know Arteta won't be impressed with that. There's been a lot of calls for him to retain his place for the weekend because he played well last night. But that one incident will cost him. I just don't get it with him.
I think maybe
he played really well. It put a massive blotch on his performance for me.
Yeah.
Don't want to see it.
Maybe he just feels like he's got to kind of do things like that, because obviously it's what a lot of the fans have kind of appreciated with him. But I think the difference was, like you say, is when when he give it back to Spurs, the game was over, it was done, we'd won it. And with the way that Brentford were playing, like I say, they were quite unlucky not to actually, get a goal and come back. But if that ball took a bounce, and obviously he wouldn't have known any different, they could have just, put that in, and then and even then he could have ended up conceding, because there was still enough of the game left. But like you say, it's probably picking his moment. But I feel like maybe at the moment, with all the talk that's going on, I don't know, maybe it's like heat of the moment. Maybe he just felt like he needed to do it. But he's quite well known for being that kind of character, isn't he?
Yeah. So what do you think Arteta would think of it?
I think he'll probably have a word with him. I definitely think he'll have a word with him, because it was only in the press conference, actually, I think it was before that game, where obviously they were talking about Saka, doing Madison's celebration, which I actually didn't see at the game, to be honest. I was made aware. I think Ash actually pointed out to me after. And I think Arteta was asked about it, and he basically said that, you know, players can kind of do what they want, but you have to be respectful to, you know, to your opponent. And I think in the moment that Ramsdale did that, I don't think Arteta would quite take that as respectful, especially with how much of the game was left. Yeah, he made a great save, and he deserves the credit for making the great save. But they could have easily scored. They could have easily put that ball back in without him even knowing. And then he's kind of making it a bit tricky for himself if he does concede or make a silly mistake. But I think Arteta will probably have a word with him about it, because it's he does say a lot about the club values and how the players hold themselves and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think it's something that we'll probably see happen again, especially if he wants to get his place back.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was it's a shame really, because I thought actually you was right. Brentford threw the kitchen sink at us second half, but we did deal with it quite well. Lots of long throws and corners and things like that weren't there, but no clear cut opportunities really. A couple of nearly moments which Ramsdale did well with, and you can't criticise his goalkeeping. But Arteta made a couple of changes to the back line. Zinchenko come on, and I want to say Elneny perhaps.
Yeah,
but he switched it around. We were a little bit more stable, and we wrestled back control, I thought. And after they made those changes, with Jesus coming on for Segura as well, we just looked a little bit more in control, didn't we? I think that Nelson and Smith Rowe looked a bit leggy because they haven't started a lot of games. Brought on a bit of freshness and that. And after we did that, we see the game out quite comfortably. And probably should have actually made it 2-0. I just want to quickly, before we move on, touch on Havertz. I thought we played quite well last night.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this earlier, little things that we could discuss. And I wanted to bring him up because he gets a lot of shit, and unjustly so, I think. I don't think he's a number 8. I think we're making a mistake trying to make him into what a number 8 or what a Granit Xhaka did last year. If you look at Granit Xhaka's stats or his GA, it was 7 goals and 7 assists last season. I believe it was.
Yeah.
Why is it then that we expect Havertz to score every week?
I think it's because...
If you could answer that, that'd be great. Because I generally don't understand. What do we expect from him? He's playing in midfield.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fans are obviously looking at where he was for Chelsea, and obviously he was known for getting the goals. But actually, in the position that he's playing in, Xhaka would score. Yeah, of course he would, but he was better at controlling the game in a sense. Obviously, he used to work quite well with Partey, and they'd kind of take it in turns to go forward. One would always be back. But I think the fans are putting a lot of pressure on him. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that he's come from Chelsea, the fact that he had such a tough time there. But no, I think he had a good game, and I think we're just gonna have to be patient with him. Like with all the players, some of them hit the ground running, some of them don't. And they'll take some time, but there's Arteta tends to improve players, in my opinion. So I think we just need to be patient with him and get behind him. And you can see that he's not been full of confidence. He'll make little mistakes. He'll like simple passes. He's not really, getting them where they need to be and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, he's putting the Arsenal shirt on. He's being put out there. Arteta's trusting him. We just need to be patient with him and look at what he's doing on the pitch, not just the goals. He's not a striker. Just let him settle in, let him find his feet, get used to the way that we play, and then kind of judge him, halfway into the season, judge him on if he's improving and stuff. And I definitely think he is improving. But I still think there's obviously quite a long way to go for him to reach, the level that he's played at, prior to Chelsea.
Do you think? I mean, I'm genuinely astounded that our fan base can't acknowledge that he's playing a completely different position to
Yeah.
what he's ever played before. He's having to drop into mid. I mean, he wins a lot of duels. I've looked at his stats from last night. He made 7 clearances, 4 or 5 with his head inside the box. He won all of his duels, or more or less. He's doing a centre midfielder's job now, not a centre forward's job. And I don't know what we expect from him. He's not going to score every week. He's not going to get goals and assists every week playing in that position. And we're asking him to do something completely alien to him and then giving him no grace at all to learn the position. And it's starting to bug me now. I mean, even my mate said he had to listen to the game on the radio, and Scott Minto was doing the commentary, and he was ripping him to shreds. You think, like, what are you doing? He's been at Arsenal for 7 games, playing a completely different position, and he has got better at it each week. I actually thought he was really good up front in the Community Shield. To be fair, and I wouldn't be surprised if we utilise him there a little bit more when Partey's fit.
Yeah.
It bugs me. I'm fed up with everyone getting on his back. Like everyone else, like Nketiah gets a free pass when he plays toilet, and he more often than not he is poor. He was poor against Everton as well, and not a word is said. But Havertz, everyone seems to have an issue with. You think he's at Arsenal now? We paid a lot of money for him. The manager wants him. We all agreed that we'd back the manager because he's earned their trust in the transfer market. So just get on with it. Give the players some support.
Yeah.
I don't know if has anything like this happened at United, Ash. It just always seems to be Arsenal that do this by Chelsea's players, and then there's a real negative reaction to it. But I guess you might be going through it a little bit with Mason Mount, but a player coming in from a club and you completely try and change his role, and there's no patience from the fans.
Yeah, he got an assist, didn't he, Mount, on Tuesday? But I think with Havertz, I think he's a class player. I mean, he proved it at Leverkusen. He absolutely was smashing it in the Bundesliga, wasn't he? But in all honesty, I think Arsenal playing him in the totally wrong position. I just really, really wouldn't play him in the centre of the park. I just think his talent is so wasted there. But he's not a striker either, is he? He was, and people compare him to when he was at Chelsea playing up front. But I mean, at Chelsea when he was up front, I mean, Chelsea was nowhere near the team that they were in the past. But in the middle of the park, I just feel he's wasted. I really do, and it's a tough role, isn't it, to play in the middle of the park, especially when you've been so used to playing, as a cam or as a forward, to then drop in the middle of the field, as a box-to-box midfielder. It's really hard. I mean, I'd even try Met on the left, just because I think he's so good at holding the ball and like you say with flick-ons and stuff like that. He's good in the air and stuff, but I think where he's being played at the minute, personally, I think it's a waste of his talent.
I'll tell you what you need as well for that is a completely different change in fitness levels.
Yeah, it's twice as hard, if not 5 times as hard, being a box-to-box midfielder, isn't it?
Yeah, and he might need to be. I mean, he actually looked knackered for the final 15 minutes of the game. He got put up front. He wasn't pressing. He was trying, but you could see he was trying, but he couldn't get across the ground. Odegaard was, ushering him in, and he just couldn't do it. He was knackered. Well, I mean, I don't know why we didn't take him off, to be honest, because he looked dead. And then Nketiah probably could have played on. But yeah, there's so many factors to it, and you've got, if we're still having these conversations in February or March, I'll probably hold my hands up and say, look, it hasn't worked. But you can't be judging him before the end of September. Especially, it's different if you signed him and he's up front and hadn't scored and hadn't assisted, and you think, oh, fucking hell, he's a bit of a dud. But we are asking a completely different role of him, and he deserves a bit of grace and a bit of support from the fan base. But just like anyone else we signed from Chelsea in the last 5 years, they don't get it. And I think that's a big part of the issue. It's not so much his performances, it's the fact that they don't like him because he's from Chelsea. But it
think
does
that's
seem like United have been a little bit more lenient with Mount, but they're in the same position. But they've not
Yeah.
had the previous experience of buying duds from Chelsea, whereas we've been stung with that. And Ad would
I think
probably back me up in that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit different with Mount though, isn't it? Because he wasn't as an attacking player as Havertz, and he's never really, scored multiple, in double figures of goals, whereas Havertz, was doing it at Leverkusen. But I do feel they am getting on Havertz back quite a lot, and I did in pre-season. There was some volley challenge or something that he missed, and he missed the pass. Didn't it make he was the first person to miss in history or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I'd seen other memes on Facebook and stuff about it, but it's like you say, it's 7 games. It's ludicrous that them just hounding it, but that's what people like to do, don't they? These keyboard warriors, they like to sit at home and just, pick on people and put them down, and any sort of negative thing they them on it. But like I said before, I think he's wasted where he is. It's a massive change in the job. It's like Alvarez at City. Them playing him behind Haaland, that you wouldn't see him drop to how Rodri plays or how De Bruyne plays, because he probably wouldn't even be fit enough to do it. And that's what I'm expecting of Havertz, but then also to be a box-to-box midfielder. But like you said, Paul, to score and assist like Xhaka was, it ain't going to happen, is it?
No. I mean, if he matches Granit Xhaka's stats in a season, which I think he'll get 7 goals and he'll get 6 or 7 assists, because it's just the nature of the position and a team that he plays for that's going to dominate and create loads of chances, then he's done his job. That is how I see it. If he replaces Xhaka's stats like for like, he's done his job.
Yeah.
But we seem to be expecting the world of him. Quick question for you both. What is handball?
It changes week by week.
This keeps popping up. I'll give you 3 examples. Christian Romero. Just a quick yes or no from both of you. Penalty or not penalty? Ad, go first. Be as neutral as you can, but
if it was given for us, if it was given against us, I'd be gutted about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I'd say it's 50-50. I'd say 50-50. You've seen them given, but then, to be on the receiving side, you'd be pretty pissed off, wouldn't you?
So the way I see it, and my mate said the same thing when it was given, even though it was against Spurs, the ball was going in the net and his arm's out. So I think that's Stonewall. And I don't think they've got any grounds to be pissed off, really. It was not like his arm was down by his side. His arm was well out and it stopped the ball going in. And I think you can't just punish the attacking team in that instance by saying it's harsh on the defender. The ball's going in the net, you have to give the penalty. That's just the rules. They do need tweaking. The other one, and it didn't make no difference to the score, but it was the first goal of the game, which Newcastle Sheffield United. Anthony Gordon clearly keeps the ball on play using his arm. Squares the ball and Longstaff, I think, scores. Would you give that as a handball?
Yeah, that was handball.
Have you seen that one?
I actually didn't see it. I actually haven't seen it.
Okay, so I believe he's running down the byline. Defender blocks his initial attempt at the cross, I think. Ball bounces up and his arm is well out.
Yeah.
Well out. It hits his hand, stops the ball going out of play, and then his next touch is to square it, and Newcastle take the lead.
Yeah, send blatant, and if his arms well out, and if you've used your arm in an unnatural position, then obviously it's handball. But I think the tricky thing is what's a natural position. That's what's difficult about, is what are they judging to be the natural position.
Yeah, I think a big issue is they use this deliberate handball interpretation, don't they? But 1 in 1,000 handballs are deliberate. It's got to be gaining an advantage. And he has. He's kept the ball on the pitch. Whether he meant to do it or not is a different question. He's gained an advantage by those actions, and Sheffield United have been punished by no fault of their own. So you just got to simplify the rule. You might see more handballs given, but so what? If it's the correct decision, then that's part of it, isn't it? The third one, and I haven't seen this. I've only heard a description of it, but they went mad on the Soccer Saturday panel when it was given, and Ash, you probably have seen it with your connection with Wolves, is the Luton penalty.
I actually missed the penalty. I haven't actually seen it.
Right, okay. So my
But I know-
understanding is it was a blocked shot that hit someone's thigh and then bounced onto an arm, and they give the
Yeah.
penalty and didn't overturn it.
Yeah, I'd heard that it shouldn't have been given, but I actually didn't see it. I know a lot of people were saying it was never a penalty. But
I
then
think
Luton got stole out to one against West Ham, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ward Prowse in like the 97th minute or something, which was a penalty. It's so controversial. It's ridiculous. I think the whole of VAR is like, even with tackles and stuff, they slow everything down to like that slow. Everything looks so much worse in slow motion. They need to play it in normal speed, so it's like as if you're rewatching the game like you do on Match of the Day and stuff as normal. When they slow it down with tackles, when you see their stud showing and stuff like that, straight away it looks horrendous, and it looks more malicious than it actually is. You're going for a ball, you're wearing studs, your foot's up. Yes, your studs are showing, but ultimately you're getting the ball. But you slow it down and look at all these different angles. Then you're being accused of trying to break people's legs and all sorts. I just don't like any of it.
I don't understand how they get so much wrong. I was watching some talk sport yesterday with Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy with Jim White, and they were talking about it, and they keep throwing this stat up that 96% of decisions are correct. But so it should be with all the cameras and technology and everything else they have in the stadiums. And plus, actually, 96% of decisions are piss easy to get correct. What way a throw in should be, things like that, and the little niggly fouls and things that are obvious. But the big decisions, there's so many controversial decisions all the time, and I don't get how they get it wrong. I just don't get it. The Luton penalty for me is huge. That could be decisive either way at the end of the season. And Wolves have been punished through just incompetence from these refs.
You see it all the time, and it's never going to change. It's never going to change. Look at Sheffield United against Aston Villa a couple of seasons back when they didn't turn the goal line technology on. I mean, do they not put control measures in place to check stuff like that? And that basically kept Villa up.
And
it's ludicrous.
And relegated Sheffield United, I believe. And the reason the wording for it was VAR is not used for goal line technology in the rule book, so therefore it couldn't use VAR to overrule it.
How did the linesman not see the goalkeeper was in the side of the net?
I know. It's bad.
I mean, the blatant.
It will never improve, like you say. It's just something we've got to live with, I think. But I know if I had one wish for football, it would be to scrap VAR.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like millimeters.
I know, and one of my best mates, he sports Leeds, and obviously they dropped down to the Championship this year. But he has said it's a blessing knowing that the ball hits the net, and if you do a quick glance and the linesman's flag ain't up, you can celebrate.
Well, you take the Arsenal United game with Garnacho. I mean, how close was that?
Yeah,
it was massive, and like you say, if that was a Championship, that would have been a goal. No linesman's going to put his flag up for that. No linesman in the world's going to give that as offside.
No, I agree. The fun has been taken out of football, hasn't it? You might be getting more decisions correct, but the fun of football is gone. like you say, I mean, I haven't experienced it this year yet at the ground, but the United fans in that game against Arsenal, I was standing right next to them. They were going mental, and you think, oh, they've won it late, and all of a sudden, it's taken away from you, and that's not what you pay your money for. I don't think
Mm.
when you go, but you
The
know,
attackers
it's
always
here to
used to have
stay.
the advantage, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah, but they've made it so technical now that that's gone, isn't it? It's but when I watched Inter Milan on Sunday away at Empoli, I think, and there was a couple of VAR decisions that needed to be done. They were instant, and you think if that was in the Premier League, that'd be another 3 or 4 minute wait
Mm.
because they're trying to be too precise with the lines and too precise with this. And there's 4 people sitting in the VAR room consulting over what they think's right and wrong and the decision. It's too much, and it needs to be either scrapped or simplified. Get rid of go back to offsides being the linesman's responsibility, and just have VAR there for foul and dangerous play and mistaken identity. I think we don't want don't want football being re-reffed. If the ref misses a penalty, he misses a penalty.
Mm.
If and we just have to live with that as fans. And I don't want to see
That's part and
VAR
parcel of the
re-reffing.
sport, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and it has been for over hundreds of years. So we just need to. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm rambling here, but VAR is going nowhere. But that would be my wish. Just get rid of it. Go back to how
It's
it
like
was.
how the linesmen don't flag now, and it's an obvious offside, and the football carries on. You could get a massive injury or something for something like that when there was
So,
blatantly offside anyway. It's ridiculous.
as soon as someone breaks their leg in that scenario, or there's a big clash of heads or something, they'll scrap that rule. But until then, they'll just let it carry on.
But it's
I'm
just
convinced of that.
bonkers.
It
It's
will
bonkers.
take something horrible to happen for them to hold their hands up and say, "Oh, actually, we're doing that wrong," which is hard. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah, we're going to move into our prediction game from last week. Ash, me and you were joint top with 7 points, so I didn't think it was too bad. Adam, you like to guess how many points you got?
None.
No, you wasn't that bad. You got 3 points, so you're lagging, boy. You need to up your game.
Not too bad.
No, so we're going to go through some fixtures now. I was going to ask you boys, did you want to just keep it to the Premiership, or did you want me to chuck in a couple of other divisions just to spice it up?
So mix and match. Why not?
Yeah. Right. So the first one we'll do is you're both Brummies. Aston Villa v Brighton.
Ooh. Who's the home team? Villa.
Yes.
Oh. I'm gonna say 3-2 Villa.
Okay.
I'm getting no points this week.
I'd say 2-2.
Okay. 2-2 for Ash. I've gone 2-1 Brighton. Next game, bottom of the table clash: Everton against Luton. Ash, want to go first?
2-0 Everton.
Ed?
I'm gonna say 3-1 Everton.
3-1. I've gone with 3-0 Everton. I think played well the last couple of games, actually. They was really good against Brentford Saturday night, Everton, and they got Calvert-Lewin fit, which I think will help them score a few goals. Wolves v Man City. I'll go first this one. I'm going 3-0 City. Ad, we'll go to you.
I'm gonna go 2-0 City.
Okay.
2-1 City.
2-1 City. It's a full house for City. And then the big one Saturday evening is Spurs v Liverpool. We'll start with you, Ed.
I'm gonna say 3-1 Liverpool.
Okay. Ash.
4-2 Liverpool.
Cool. I've gone with 2-2. I think Tottenham are just, they're on a high at the moment, aren't they? So they'll do all right. We'll chuck in. I don't know. We'll move on. We'll do Southampton v Leeds.
Mm.
I'm going to go with 1-0 Leeds on this one. They seem to have redeemed themselves a little bit.
I'll say
Matt? Yeah, go on. What'd you say, sorry?
1-1.
1-1.
I reckon 2-1 Southampton. They've got to win sooner or later.
Yeah, they've been poor of late, haven't they?
Massively, yeah.
Just bear with me. I'm just scouting through some of the fixtures in the lower leagues, so won't keep you a sec. It's top of the table clash, I think. Port Vale v Bolton. Ash, we'll start with you.
2-2.
Ed?
I'm gonna say 3-2 Port Vale.
I've gone with 2-1 Bolton. So very different results here. We'll choose one from League Two. Now, this will be an interesting one because this is right by me. But the team against the team at the top, Colchester v Notts County. So Colchester bottom, I believe, and Notts County at the top, or certainly near the top. From what I know of Colchester, they've been pretty shit so far this year. Only 20 minutes for me, but they are a god awful team to watch. I'm going 3-0 Notts County. Ed?
I'll go 2-0 Notts.
And Ash?
3-0 Notts County.
There we go. Right, so there's 7 fixtures like normal. 4 from the Premier League and then 1 from each of the lower divisions. Just before we finish, do you guys pay much attention to what happens beneath the Premier League, or?
Yeah, I always have a look. It's always quite interesting. I've seen Bolton beat United under 21s 8-1 yesterday, didn't I? I saw that.
Did
4
they?
goals. Yeah, I'm sure it was 8-1.
Bloody hell.
It was.
Have you two got a particular club in the lower leagues that you're fond of, or is there anyone local like Walsall or anything like that you look out for their results?
No, I always have a look at all the Midlands teams' results, to be honest.
It's just Arsenal for me, really. I mean, I have a look at what other teams are doing. But in terms of like lower league, I don't really appreciate any other teams. It's mainly just Premier League teams. Obviously, like teams like Brighton, even Newcastle. They're quite entertaining to watch. But yeah, I'll have a look, see what's going on. But most of my interest in Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, I think lower league and non-league's a bit more pure. I don't know what sort of non-league sides you've got around you. Solihull maybe. But down here there's a club called Hayward Swifts, which is where I played as a boy and things like that. They only get 200 people through the gate, and very, very, very. It's probably like a 9th or 10th tier of football, but it's just more connected. If that makes sense. Well, obviously the players aren't big stars and no one knows who they are, but it's just a little bit more. You feel more connected to it. Like there's a bit of disconnect, isn't there, between the fans and the big clubs now, the money and everything like that. So I really enjoy non-league, and it's quite when you know the nuts and bolts of it. It's quite political. It's quite in depth, and lots goes on behind the scenes that you wouldn't necessarily think happens. So when you get into it, it's quite interesting as well. So I do keep a keen eye on what happens lower leagues. But my soft spot is Southend. You know, they're in the National League, but they're only down the road. There's only down the road from where I grew up, and they've actually been a decent side in the last 20 years. They said that famous win against United, didn't they, in the League Cup?
Yeah.
Got back-to-back promotions into the Championship with Colchester. Actually, funny enough, who's their Essex rivals, and did quite well. But what the sad reality of this, and you boys have, would have heard the story about Bury Town and things like that, is they've got an arsehole owner who's trying to run them into the ground.
Yeah.
I think they've got something like 14 or 15 players signed on, and they're not allowed to sign anybody, free agents or anything like that. They've points deductions, and it's terrible, really, what the powers of an unlawful owner can do to a football club of that size. They don't stand a chance, and I'd be very much surprised if they're still a club by the end of the season. To be honest, that's how precarious it is for them. Which is why I think it's important that if you can, you show your local club a little bit of support every now and then, because they need it more than Arsenal do, or Aston Villa, or anyone like that. So, and I'm sure there's many people that have watched or listened tonight that will agree with that, and often pop down their local club or something like that. Even if it's, it doesn't even have to be for the football. I go to Haybridge on a Tuesday night with my mates, and we'll sit there and have a few beers, and that all adds to the part, and that's where I play six-a-side and things like that. So the local clubs, they need your support. Sorry, Ash, I interrupted there.
Yeah, no, it's good. My son plays for an under sevens team, and they've got a first team semi-pro, and they do so much in the community and stuff. And it's really, really good, and they cry out for people to go there to support and take part in raffles and fundraisers and stuff like that. Even just going up and like you say, having a couple of beers and watching the football and stuff. It's it goes a long, long way, doesn't it?
It does. It's further than you'd believe, actually. I think it's so many of these clubs are on their arse financially. So if you go in and spend a tenner, it means the world to them, because it's a fraction towards paying one of their players. For example, most of them at that level will be on 50, 60 quid a game. And it only gets paid for by people coming through the door. None of them have got tycoon owners or anything like that. So it's they need their communities more than ever, really, with everything going up in price and cost and everything like that. So there's I think with going forward, we'll probably introduce a few lower league fixtures into our predictions. It just spices it up a little bit. Quite difficult to predict, aren't they? So as long as you two are okay with that, we'll probably do that every week.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening, and I think we'll call it there. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.